Mm. I am testing out captions. I am testing out captions. Hmm. Holy Batman. Uh-oh. Shoot. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Loading, loading, loading. We are so close to going live.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Amanda.
Hey, how are you? Sorry, I'm at HEC, the Hoosier Educational Computer Conference,
Oh, nice.
and so
We'll make do.
I'm presenting with a co-worker tomorrow. So we're at a hotel, and the Wi-Fi was kind of iffy. So I was just like, forget it. I'm just gonna hook up to my hotspot and go.
Sounds good. All right, we're gonna launch it and go live right now. It's about time. All right. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Applied Digital Skills in the classroom. This is Chris Bell with EdTechTeam. Joining us, we have Amanda Alford, and we'll be sharing all of the ideas about how Amanda has been utilizing applied digital skills in her classroom, not only as a technology teacher, but as a science teacher. So as we get started, for anyone that is joining us, I have a couple of polls here. And specifically, the first thing I'm going to launch is just take a quick second to respond to the poll that now pops up on your screen. Which grade level you teach? Do you teach science? And then have you used applied digital skills before today? So just take a moment to fill out that quick poll, and then we will get jumping along here. Happy Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. For those of you on the East Coast, you're through most of your day. I still got the evening and all the fun that goes along with having kids at home at this time of day.
Oh, yeah.
So we're excited. Thanks for joining. Amanda, where are you joining us from today?
I am in Indianapolis at HEC. It is the Hoosier Educational Computer Conference, and it started today, and I will be presenting with a co-Google trainer tomorrow over getting Google certified, and I know Applied Digital Skills is going to be presented tomorrow. And it's a 3-day conference here in Indianapolis. So that's where I am, is sitting in a hotel lobby as I talk to you and having people watch me talk to my computer screen as they walk by.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate your flexibility in joining us while you're at another conference. How are things in Indianapolis these days? It's a beautiful city.
It is, and it's very cold. Fall has definitely kicked in. I believe there's a chance of snow flurries tonight. So
That was the same experience I had when I was there. Sorry.
Yeah. I was like a couple of weeks ago when we were talking, and I was complaining about it being in the 50s and 60s. I definitely am taking back that statement now. I am wishing for those warmer weather.
So for everyone who's joining us, I wanted to obviously let you know that the resources are located at the URL that we have below here. Let me actually type that into our chat. We've recently moved away from YouTube Live as a test, see if we can get some better results. So I think I can drop links into the chat, and there you go. That should launch this slide deck. Making it easier for you to follow along. There's also a couple of things in there that will turn on as we get into this webinar. So you'll be able to submit your name and win some prizes, including online courses from EdTechTeam. And we'll probably give away an Amazon gift card or two, depending on how many people show up. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and move this forward. Session resources are located at again, edtech.team /AppSki November 7th. We're one day post the midterm elections, and no matter where you sit on the political spectrum, I'm just glad it's over, because now we can return to focusing on everything else that's going on in the world and in our country. So obviously I'm a little US centric on this. So if we have anyone joining us from elsewhere, let us know. So with that, if you would open up the chat button and actually drop in, let us know where you're from. What state are you joining us from? I'm in California. Amanda's in Indiana. We'd love to hear from where everyone else is at. So Amanda, how has the school year been going?
It is going well. The beginning of the school year is always different. And my school district, when they come to 7th grade, that's their first year into junior high. So they're going from an elementary school into a junior high. So the first 9 weeks is always just trying to help them transition, lockers, schedules, switching teachers. But now that the first 9 weeks is over, they've gotten into their groove, they know what they're doing, and things are, moving much smoother as we, head into Veterans Day and the holidays.
Yeah, it's just that time of year. It's that last push right before we head into the holiday season. That period of time where nothing really gets done between Thanksgiving and when people go on winter break. I think it's a great opportunity to try out applied digital skills during this period of time as well. If you're looking for downtime or different activities where students may need a little bit of a distraction as they amp up for the break.
Yes.
So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and move on. As I mentioned before, I'm Chris Bell with EdTechTeam. been utilizing applied digital skills in a variety of ways with adult learners, and been helping out a number of different school districts with getting up and going with applied digital skills. What I've found is fantastic resource. We'll kind of dive into it a little bit more after we talk with Amanda about what it really is. Ultimately, how you can get started pretty quickly, and some different ways that others are utilizing it as well. Amanda, why don't you fully introduce yourself now that we've talked a little about where you're at. Obviously, you're in Indiana, but where specifically?
So I am in Switzerland County, which is Vevey, Indiana. It is the most southeastern corner in the state. This is my 11th year teaching 7th grade, and I'm actually from Switzerland County. So as we call it, I'm a homegrown teacher, so to speak. They're in my own community. It's where my husband's from. Our daughter's in the school corporation. And then I teach applied digital skills. This is my 2nd year teaching applied digital skills. I taught it fully last year. I'm also a Google certified trainer. And I also go around speaking about how applied digital skills is such a great benefit to not only middle school and high school, but it can be adapted to lower or to elementary, to even adult education. So in between teaching 7th graders and being a mother and being a wife and then being a trainer, just trying to go around and help as many people get to know this program.
Well, excellent. Thanks, Amanda. And did you mention that you're also a track coach? Are you still a track coach?
I am still the track coach too.
Wow, you got a lot going on.
Yeah, so once Christmas gets past and I can get through all of that, then I start focusing on track. So yeah, right now I'm just trying to get through this semester.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate you joining us. So what I'd like to do is just kind of dive into just a few questions. First of all, this one, what's one interesting fact about yourself that few people know?
One interesting fact. So I'm kind of looking because I have my coworker. One interesting fact that my students thinks is funny is that I am the track coach. I have been for several years, and I hate running. Like I am probably the least running, like cross country track. Like I can tell them how to run. There's a quote off Mr. Holland's Opus, the football coach, and I use this all the time. I'm like, I am great at holding a clipboard, blowing a whistle, and telling you exactly what you need to do to get to where you need to be. I can't do it myself.
Well, hey, I will admit that most of the time I hate running as well.
I was like, but yeah, I love coaching track. I love helping the kids, reach goals and potentials. I would not run the 100-meter dash if you paid me. I don't even think I could make it the 100-meter dash if you paid me. So that's probably something, because if you look at me, most people are like, oh, she's kind of athletic looking. She probably loves to run. And I'm like, no, I don't. No.
Well, excellent. So I appreciate you sharing and being vulnerable about that too, especially as a track coach.
Yes.
So you first mentioned that you teach technology as well as science. So I guess my question for you is what really made you start utilizing the Applied Digital Skills curriculum? How did you find out about it?
So not this summer, but last summer. So the summer of 2017. My principal over the summer called and said, we have an opening for an elective position, and you are Google certified. We want you to teach Google. And he said that the 6th graders that were coming into 7th grade, we are a Google school, we're one-to-one, but he goes, we feel that they need a little bit more experience, Google Docs, Gmail, how to share, how to make copies. He goes, you are a Google certified teacher. I want you to teach Google. He goes, you can create the curriculum, you can create lesson plans, rubrics, however you want to do it. And so I did what any teacher would do. I Googled it. I Googled how you teach Google. And between myself and my co-presenter over here, we found applied digital skills just by luck. And she was like, hey, I think this is something that you could utilize. So I started looking through it and I'm like, it has the lesson plans, it has the rubrics, it goes through, it teaches all these Google apps that my principal is wanting these students to use. It's video based. And what the principal really loved was that it was free. So it correlated with all these different curriculum contents. So math, language arts, social studies. It was exactly what he wanted. It made me feel more confident because there were definitely aspects of Google, even though I'm a Google trainer, that I wasn't familiar with, like coding, app scripts and stuff like that. Spreadsheets intimidated me a little bit at the
Right.
beginning, and to know that I could learn with my students as I went through the video base. And that it was the thing that I found really awesome was that it's real life skills. And it made my students excited about it. How to produce movies, how to buy cars, how to, house shop, plan vacations. They loved that because they're like, this is what people do in real life. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It's like,
You know,
and I,
it's great that you found like a comprehensive solution like this, because I think back to when I was teaching middle school, and we had to build these lessons ourselves. We had to build all these things, and it was me building screencasts for students, having them walk through certain aspects of a project, but there was so much more hands-on creation that I had to spend time doing. Uh, the prep time really ate into a lot of my evenings. So it's nice to be able to have this package solution that just keeps getting better and better.
yes, and it keeps growing. When I started a year and a half ago, there was 11 units. I believe now it's 22, 23 units. So Google just keeps adding units as we go, which is fabulous because they're always asking for feedback. And you can tell that the team at Google is listening to the feedback. Like
Yes,
as the units
we
continue
had
to,
we had one of the designers on our last
yes,
webinar in October. If you check
yes.
the archives, and man, she was curious about how they could improve it, what we really liked about it. So it's definitely expanding. And what I really like most is they keep adding the smaller units, so the
Yes.
teachers can slide them right into their curriculum. Okay, so question then. So then what really prompted you to use it in your science classrooms? Because it's not a straightforward fit to take many of these concepts and then apply them in your science classroom.
Well, one of the things that I did was I already teach a blended classroom. So I was already kind of like what you were doing. I was prepared to make all the screencastifies. I was prepared to start making all these videos because I already do that in my regular science class. And so I started implementing just the method and the video-based curriculum and the way that they were presenting more in my classroom. That way the students could just see the correlation of going from one class to another. Trying to implement more of the Google apps into how I use every day, from Google drawings to spreadsheets, just with my data. So I really tried to get away from so much writing it in notebooks and doing the interactive notebooks, which are so common, the science journals. And I'm like, how can I start using these more in my science class? And the project that we started with was produce or pick the next box office hit. And that's really about making a hypothesis, but
Okay.
multiple hypotheses. And so we started with that. And then we're like, all right, how can we start adding a little bit more? So then we would go to plan and budget. And that's with the cell phones, plan your vacation. And then we started making more hypotheses because the scientific method is used every week in my science class. And then we would do kind of if then adventures, but what would you do with scientific equipment? So here's the lab equipment. If then adventures, what would happen if you didn't use the triple beam balance, correctly? And just kind of incorporating it, because I was doing all the work. I was making all the videos. I was teaching. They just sat back and watched. So I'm like, how can I start adding them more into what we're doing? Making them more responsible for their work instead of me doing all this effort. And so just kind of inching that in, but then doing a lot more cross curricular. You know, I do a lot of math. We do a lot of language arts with writing, with our lab reports. So just kind of integrating those things in. We did map to an area. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
guide to an area. And so when we
Yeah.
talk about volcanoes, you know, we're looking at the ring of fire and letting them kind of incorporate all of that in. But then it's nice because I'm not the one doing all the teaching. They get to hear it from someone else. And it's kind of like the old saying, when the kid's away from their mother, they act better than when they're right next to their mother. So, so when someone else is leading the videos and explaining this to them, they're like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do, or that makes sense, even though I could have told them myself. It's somebody else, and they're seeing, oh, this is a different way that we can look at it. This is a different outlook. And I always try to explain how this is used in real life. What jobs right now are using these skills that they're learning? Because I think that's important. They need to make those connections, you know.
So to that end, thinking about this from a science vantage point, most of the students in your classroom probably won't become scientists in the traditional sense. But what are those skills that would apply to those that might choose to go into science? And what are they learning through this process of using the applied digital skills curriculum?
The main thing is one, the scientific method, because you can make several the hypotheses.
Mm-hmm.
The second is data analysis.
Facts.
Several of these, like the plan and budget, learning how to use the spreadsheets. The Pick the Next Box Office Hit is another one who's really big on the data analysis and taking large amounts of data and learning how to add formulas in, how to take specific sections out that you're wanting to see, graphing, with the charts and the data. That's a huge part of being a scientist, just getting that data steps and saying, this is what it looks like in a visual perspective instead of seeing all these numbers. Um, that's something that I'm constantly trying to integrate and tell my students is, you have all these numbers. Now let's get a visual viewpoint, because that's what today's generation is, that are visual. They don't want to have to scroll through and add all these different numbers. If there's a formula, some if that they can type in
Right.
and be like, here it is.
I'm old and older than those kids, and I don't want to tally that data.
Right. And so getting the data analysis. Um, Another thing that even for scientists is just confidence, building that self-esteem and confidence of I can, letting them know that even though you make a mistake, just like in the scientific method, if your hypothesis is incorrect, you modify, you go back, you change the variable, and you plug it in to see, is this what is going to work? You know, does my data support uh, what I'm trying to solve and conclude?
So given that, so that the curriculum is blended, and obviously you're there to support them, how much support do you give them, or do you allow them an opportunity to fail at some of
Oh,
these?
I'm a big component in letting them fail. I really am. I at a Google Summit, um, Jenny, I always mess up Jenny's last name.
Magera?
Magera, yes, was giving her keynote, and it's, you know, it's okay to let them struggle. Struggling is okay, to let them see where their mistakes are and find their mistakes and let them make those connections on their own. And so I do let them struggle. I'll go back and say, this is the general area that you need to go back and look at, but I will not tell them. And I do that in my science class. And I will let you know if you want to take on that task. It takes about a month of them really grumbling, of you letting them struggle, but then they want to start getting it on their own. And that's something that I tackle in all my classes is it's okay to struggle. Everybody fails. It's the first attempt in learning,
Right.
not the end game.
Yeah, to go a little birdwalk on that, I was actually reading something last night in a book that I'm reading, and one of the points that really drilled into me was describing two scientists that works in a lab. Most of his colleagues hire for high GPA and for how elite the school is, and
Mm-hmm.
when determining to take on research assistants. This professor or a scientist had a very different take on it, and ultimately opted to take on students who had exhibited challenge and failure in their own personal life and how they learned from that.
Mm-hmm.
And the results that they have produced are actually significantly higher because they are able to work through adversity. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fantastic that, through this type of curriculum, we can really advance that idea of allowing students a little bit of struggle, obviously being there to support them when they
Right.
need to be supported. But um, it's kind of amazing when you start to think about how you can apply this curriculum in very different ways.
And it's also depending on what you teach. As a middle school teacher, I have all branches of science. But
Right.
as you get into high school, um, I know Steve Wicks, he's an environmental science teacher. He's doing all kinds of amazing things with it. But again, it's researching a topic, developing presentations and things like that off of environmental. So you can definitely branch off into whatever branch of science that you teach. Chemistry would be great, especially teaching them data analysis and trying to get their formulas and their graphs and all that, technical with the chemical equations and stuff like that, getting that all into one, you know, cohesive, I guess would be a good word, um, page, and letting them kind of see how this all works together instead of pages after pages of notebooks and, getting lost.
Yeah, my brother-in-law is he's actually a research scientist, biochemistry, and he spends most of his time analyzing the data sets that's coming out of his experience,
Right.
and then turning around and having to present that information at various conferences, peer-reviewed conferences and things like that. So yeah, it's a fantastic question. Then I'll transition a little bit if you don't mind.
Okay. Go for it.
Um, what were some of the initial challenges you really faced when you were starting the process of utilizing applied digital skills in your classrooms?
Um, Probably the biggest struggle for me was time management. How long do I give them to get through each activity and unit? Because even though the curriculum gives you a guideline, depending on how um, I guess used to using applied or the Google Suites they are. My students coming in struggled a little bit with, we're still teaching them how to share a doc, how to make a copy, just basic skills that you would have. So it depends on their level of expertise.
Right.
Um, and then also, I'm also dealing with middle schoolers, so everything takes longer. Every assignment takes a little longer because, we're getting them to adapt because there's so much change that we're throwing at them. A high school student who is used to going through all the different changes of classes and the rigor of having multiple classes could probably pick up a little quicker. So for me, time management. Um, Second is figuring out that balance of how much to let them struggle and how much to step in and be like, here, this is how you do it. Um, the other struggle was at first just finding the flow, like which unit do I start with now, which unit do we go to now,
Mhm.
which unit do we use, and really trying to figure out how can I correlate this with other teachers, how can I make this work where it is cross curricular, how can I start embedding this more into my science class in general and not just my Google class. um, so there is a learning curve, and I went, as always, straight in, head first, not even worrying about, the next step. So it probably did take me about 9 weeks to really figure things out and work through some kinks. Um, but like you said, now Google is having smaller units, making quizzes, building resumes, all about a presentation. So we of course started with the largest unit there is, pick the next box office hit. So, I mean, we kind of go big or go home is how we started this out. Um, but just overall, just management, time management, which, and you can, if you could see my colleague, she would tell you that's just my biggest struggle in general in all my classes is just time management because I just want to do it all. I want to do all the labs. I want to do all the fun things. I want to get through the examples and the lectures and everything I can cram into. So that's just my personality. Um, if you're a more organized person, you're probably much better at time management. But again, one of my struggles, besides not being able to run, is just time management in general, because I just want to do it all. I don't want them to miss out on anything. And so I'm constantly just like, and here's something, and here's something.
So thinking about that from teachers getting started, let's say that they want to try it between now and the winter break. Where would you suggest that they start?
I would suggest one, I let my students kind of look through the units and kind of see what their interest was. Because I'm a big component on student voice. What interests them? If they are interested in doing a whole unit like making a quiz with Google Forms, that is a great one to start with. They can start with an all about me topic where they can just do a presentation kind of about something they're interested in, which is a great, what's something that you like in science or what's a lab that you would like to do in science throughout the school year, because it is still really early in the school year. So, they could research the scientific method or all the steps to a lab that they think would work really well with the science class that they're taking. And they could create a presentation over that. Or if they were just wanting to kind of feel it out and kind of do some data analysis, make a hypothesis, they could pick a larger unit like plan and budget maybe, and just pick specific activities. So you could just do the activity over, making a purchase like cell phones. Making the purchase like a car loan. So they can break out a larger unit just into a small activity, just to kind of get the feel of it. Or they can try to take on a whole unit, but try one of the smaller ones, but that could still incorporate how they could use it in their science class.
So thinking about that, how in your science class during the week, do you have students utilizing it weekly, or is it every other week, or how is that working, and how much time are they spending typically?
So in my class, or in the way my schedule works, I have one entire class period dedicated to applied digital skills every day.
Okay.
So then we kind of sprinkle it into the science classes. So they're always talking about it. There's only 106 of them. So news travels fast with whatever activity that we're doing. So when they were looking up car loans, they all knew by the next period that we were looking up car loans in Google Tech. It doesn't take long for that word to spread. So I would say probably on a weekly basis, we're trying to incorporate some skill that we've learned, if not an activity. A lot of times I'm just trying to pull small skills out because, again, I have students coming from here's the power button on your Chromebook to Mrs. Alford, I can teach exactly what you're teaching. Move over. I got this. So it's also just a balancing act of, again, trying to meet skill levels, keep them engaged. But I'd say at least a couple of times a week, definitely, I'm incorporating what we're doing. I'm always bringing it back up, talking about it. And the great thing is the confidence that's building in applied digital skills. I now have 20 little Google ambassadors in all my other classes. So if I have a student going, I don't remember how to make a copy, I now have students in every science class going, I got it, I can show them, and wanting to be that extra help, wanting to show their classmates, I know how to do this. That's something they wouldn't have done at the beginning of the school year. They wouldn't have had that self-esteem of, I can stand up and say, don't worry, I can show my classmates. And that's positive reinforcement. I love when they do that. I'm always like, good job, that's right. If you got a question, this person can help you out today. If I'm busy with somebody else, you can go ask one of your peers. And that's just kind of building them up too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that in any classroom, developing the expertise and helping them recognize that, just because I went through more years of schooling doesn't mean I always have
Right,
the answer, or that their peers don't have the answer. So.
right.
Right. Well, I would like to transition now. Just kind of talk about a couple of things. Thank you for sharing all of those things.
Oh, no
I want to
problem.
plug your drip email course at the end of this.
Hmm.
So for those of you that teach science, Amanda has worked with us to develop a drip email course that you can sign up and receive 5 days of emails specifically on integrating applied digital skills into the science classroom. So once again, here's our session resources here. Make sure you complete the form for a chance to win an online course and an Amazon gift card. Just to recap everything, make sure that we didn't really talk too deeply about this, but Applied Digital Skills is a free video-based curriculum from Google that prepares students for a growing number of jobs that really do require digital skills. And really, it hones in on some very specific things built around projects. Big fan of project-based learning, as obviously you are, Amanda.
Hmm.
To me, projects make it authentic and allow them to really dig into something, not just learning about the tool, but then how to apply these things that they're learning. Um, Producing a blockbuster movie, learning document formatting and graphic design, editing a piece of writing. Have you done this one with your students before? Or have
I
your
have.
students done this?
I have. I had last year. I had my students do this, and they used actual language arts research papers that they were working on, and they
Excellent.
ran this code, and it was amazing how many students came back to me and said, "Mrs. Alford, I need to find a new word for awesome. I use awesome so much," and I'm like,
Way too
"Yeah, you
much.
do." You do, but it's that visual. They needed to see it. I could tell them, "Hey, you say awesome every other word," and they wouldn't believe me. They did a student written programming code, and they're bringing it up to me, going, "I need new words. I'm saying the same things over." I'm like, "Yeah, but you are realizing that. You are making those connections."
That's fantastic. As I mentioned, project-based learning, some of the digital skills are highlighted there on the things that they're learning, the actual digital skills, but the practical life skills are obviously broadly applicable as well. Um, you know, we really don't teach budgeting and planning.
Right.
And if you're going into science, and you happen to go all the way and become a scientist, a research scientist in any capacity, um, you're applying for grants and you're managing budgets. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing how much time is spent on non-scientific things. Sure, Renee, we'll drop that into the chat for you. Sorry about that. It's on our, there you go. If you go there and pull it up, the second slide, I believe, will have the link to the form. But there's so many different ways that they can learn things through this. Key into this is obviously collaboration as well, especially when you pair students up into groups. Some of these things can be, some of these units or these lessons are perfectly suited for individual activities, but many of them are suited for collaborative group opportunities. Um, One of the things that is fantastic to highlight about the curriculum specifically is each lesson comes with lesson plans. So, like any good curriculum that you may be used to, there are lesson plans that allow you to really understand where the lesson is going, what the learning objectives are for that lesson. There are rubrics that are customizable for anybody who wants to take it, modify it. If you have very specific standards that you want to address as part of the activity, and then you can modify the rubrics and then push that out into Google Classroom if you use Classroom or Canvas or any other system that you may be utilizing already. Um, I personally like the fact that it's self-paced. Some teachers like to have a regimented program where students are all pacing through at the same time. But I perfectly love the environment when I can create an opportunity for students to go faster or slower as needed. And the videos, additionally, are accessible and allow for slowing or speeding up of the video as well. The other piece of it is the curriculum is aligned to Iste standards, and it is also aligned to a large number of state standards, specifically the career technical education standards, library standards, and sometimes the Common Core standards, depending on the state that you're in. And more standards are coming. So just be on the lookout for that. It's being updated and modified consistently. Amanda highlighted the if then adventure stories, and that's a really fantastic entry point on for a lot of teachers. I've talked to elementary teachers, math teachers, science, history. All of them have really said this is a great because they can dig into it and tell very different stories depending on the subject area. So I know that you've done this one
Yes.
in a variety of different ways. And I know that a lot of teachers that we've had conversations with really look at this one as a great starting point. So, oops, let me close that. And looking ahead, there are technologies role in current events that allow you to do some analysis. This is a great opportunity to analyze current science events and discoveries. So if we're talking science, pivot it away from non-science specific and dig deeply into current and relevant science topics. I know that when I used to teach programming, I taught a Python class, and I always had my students do a writing assignment related to technology and programming. And they'd be like, why do I have to write? This is a programming class. I go, because you need to understand where things are going and really understand not just how code comes together, but what the broad applications of it are and how it's undergirding so many things. And I see these types of assignments and types of opportunities to allow for them to dig into science in a more meaningful way.
Oh yeah, I completely agree.
And obviously, Amanda talked about the editing tool with programming. It's a fantastic opportunity to dig into in a variety of different ways. And pick the next box office hit. That's one that you highlighted. So again, data analysis, there's so much that can be done. And again, the key is that you can take these lessons as is, or you can slightly modify them for your students to be more applicable to a science classroom. I like to call it remixing. That's my favorite phrase for it. Teachers always like to remix, right?
They do. They do. And I think I remix every lesson every year. I don't think I've taught the same way 2 years in a row, even 11 years into it. I'm constantly changing lessons. I'm constantly rethinking, how can I do this differently? How can we change it? How can we improve it? And I always ask my students that too. What can we do to make this better? What needs to change? What's some feedback of what you are seeing? Because they'll tell you, they're very honest. They will let you know if it needs to be changed, but then they appreciate the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of my students appreciate that with Google, because on the Applied Digital Skills, after every unit and activity, they're asking for feedback. What did you like? What didn't you like? What needs to be changed? What can we do better? And my students are always asking, can we just be honest? I'm like, yeah, just be honest. Let them know. You will not hurt their feelings if you tell them. I'm like, be polite, but you can be honest.
Right.
And they like that. They like that they get to express their feelings, because I feel a lot of times they don't get to share the feedback and really express what they think needs to be different to really engage them.
It's an important point. As teachers, we're very quick to give feedback on a lot of things, but often students don't always have that same voice. So it's a good reminder that every lesson does have that. The other piece of it is that, and jump back, each lesson has a reflection activity that's that kind of pulse check on the lesson. One of the things that we're not highlighting specifically right here is that you can track student progress through the units. And it's a fantastic way to see kind of where students are at. You can also see their responses when they're reflecting on the unit and how they felt about it. Obviously, you can do that through a rubric, but I feel like this is part of the curriculum, and um, it's a real easy connection for them.
Yeah.
So how to get started with applied digital skills. So we have that URL. I think I dropped it into the chat here. I'll drop it in once again. This URL will take you to Google's Applied Digital Skills website. All you need to do is sign up. You should use your G Suite for Education account. So if your school or your school district issues G Suite accounts, it's recommended that you use that. It's also recommended for your students to utilize a G Suite for Education account as well. Once you go in, you can review the lesson plans. So each unit and curriculum lesson has a way for you to look at everything. You can review the videos. You can look through the lesson plans. You can dive right in. We really suggest that you spend a little bit of time. You spend a little bit of time just walking through, reading through the lesson plans and kind of see where it's going. Experience some of the videos with students. And when you first start out, I'd also suggest, you play some of those preliminary videos for a unit, whole class. Play it whole class, talk about what they're asking about. That will help with the onboarding process for students. Sometimes we go quick and we dive in and everybody gets on their headphones and away they go. But sometimes it's good to start it off as whole class and then transition it over into individual.
And to kind of piggyback off what Chris is saying, each lesson plan for each activity and unit has annotated screenshots of what they should be working on. So I always pull that up on my Promethean board to show my students, this is what it should look like. This is what your project during this unit should look like. So if it doesn't look like this, we need to go back and fix it. And that's kind of where that struggling I was talking about comes in. But set goals. I'm always setting goals with my student. Kind of like Chris, I let them go at their own pace. We pick the units, we discuss, we kind of see where everybody is, but I let them kind of move at their own pace in the activities. But I'm also always setting goals with them to keep those who struggle a little bit or maybe will stall a little bit trying to, take a little bit more time because they think they can. So I'm always setting the goals, but I also want them to have, again, that visual. This is what it should look like. This is what your screen should look like. But then I let them, again, have student voice. You can create it. You can choose whatever cars you want. You can choose whatever cell phones. You can choose whatever topics or, if-then stories, however you want to create it. But this is the layout. This is kind of your rough draft. And
so I'm going to pull this up right now so that we can see for the teachers that are on here. When I look at the curriculum, we see the lessons here, and I can quickly open it up, play a video if I wanted to. I won't play that video, but I could. Instructions are off to the right-hand side, transcripts below as it's playing, as well as closed captioning. But more specifically, where is it right there? The lesson plans. Lesson plans has what to look for, as Amanda's describing it. It's got examples that are already done. So if you're unsure of what it should look like, let's see, where is it? Where is an example in here? I'm moving slowly. Come on. Complete the pre-survey. That way I can show.
I think lesson 2 has one.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. It's just moving slow. It's loading slowly for me right now. It's our Wi-Fi. There it is. Example student outcome. There we go. So this is an example student outcome of what it should look like. So you're not only are you getting what the lesson objectives are, but you're getting, here's what a sample student outcome should look like. So that's a fantastic resource helping scaffold teachers that are new to this through the process. So we really appreciate that. I know that was based on feedback that Google received. So back to our original slide here. This is how to get started. Go there, sign up a class, have students join a class. If you're using Google Classroom, They give you a code. Students join by code just the same way as they do Google Classroom, and they're in. And then the other thing is Google did put a back to school kit. It's now listed under the curriculum resources, I believe, for teachers. Quick start guide, some print off things that you can print right off, some starter lesson suggestions, and a lot of FAQs to kind of help guide you through that process. The other piece that I will promote is EdTechTeam worked with Google's Applied Digital Skills team and course authors like Amanda Alford and others to really hone in on examples of how teachers are using this in various classrooms. So listed on your screen here are ways that it could be integrated into the math classroom, the English classroom, science, obviously with Amanda, second language learners. If you have a lot of second language learners in there, we worked with Natalia Lemoyne out of New York to really hone in on a quick course to really highlight different ways that can be utilized. Upper elementary, so if you know any upper elementary teachers that are also teaching science and other upper elementary topics, there's a great course that Rosalinda helped develop for us. And these are just 5-day email courses. So you sign up at the URL linked on that, and I will actually drop it in here. If you sign up at that URL, you just provide your email address in the subject area that you teach. I believe you'll receive a 5-day email drip campaign. So it just comes to your inbox every day with a new tip and new lesson ideas and even some templates, I believe, in many of the lessons. And we appreciate Amanda for helping with that. This is a fantastic one with Monica Willis. There's Amanda's course. So she really highlighted, again, not only some of the things she talked about today, but even more. So we encourage you to sign up for that and share it with your friends. And I will skip through these, but again, 5-day email course, free, and just really designed to help guide you through some tips on getting started with this. Micah Shippey did one in social studies, and he'll be joining us in our next webinar on December 5th, I believe. We're excited to talk to him about what he's been doing with it in his social studies classroom. So once again, make sure you complete the form. I'm going to do a drawing in just a second. If you complete the form, we'll offer up a free online course, and then our final drawing will be for a $25 Amazon gift card. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give everybody just a moment to complete that. So if you haven't had a chance, go ahead and submit for that. And you'll be able to choose from our on-demand, what we call just-in-time courses. And we've got courses on a variety of topics designed to help you with integrating technology in the classroom, as well as classroom pedagogy and instruction. So complete that form, bit.ly. That's the correct one, bit.ly. What do you got going on for dinner tonight? Have you already eaten?
I think after this we're going to meet some other techie people from the HET conference and kind of talk and just network and chill from the course of the day and get ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a big day for us. We have 2 3-hour workshops that we're going through.
Oof, that's tough. Those are long. They go by, the upside of about 3 hours is sometimes they go by very, very quickly. And it makes it a little bit, it's a break up to the day. An hour is never enough.
Right.
3 hours can sometimes be too much, but what I like about 3 hours is it gives you the space to allow people to do more, to build, test, apply. All right, let's see, a last call for completing the form. And we're gonna run it through. Okay, let's see here. Okay, our first winner of an online course will be Maureen Tumenis from Massachusetts. Maureen, look for an email from myself in just a few minutes. I'll introduce you to our online course team, and they will go ahead and set you up, tell you what you need to do to get started with that online course. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
And then the last one is going to be Wendy Bucaro. Looks like Bucaro. Wendy Bucaro, you are the winner of a $25 Amazon gift card. So what we will do is reach out to you, and our marketing department will provide you with a way to redeem that. And thank you again for attending today. This webinar will be archived, and we will be linking to it directly on the slide deck. So the slides that you have accessed previously through the session resources, let's see, at that URL, that edtech.team, AppSki November 7th, that actually will include the webinar archive. So please share it with colleagues. There are also links to the rest of our YouTube playlist, as well as resources for getting started quickly in any subject area that you may teach. So thank you all for attending.
Yes,
Please, thank you, Amanda, so much for sharing your knowledge.
Oh, no problem.
Please follow us at EdTechTeam on Twitter. If you happen to be on Google+, we have a thriving community there at Plus EdTechTeam. And check out edtechteam.com and subscribe to our blog. We've got a lot of great resources that we share through that. Thank you to everyone that attended and participated or lurked from afar. We appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule, especially this time of year. And we hope you have a fantastic evening. And Amanda, once again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. It's always great to talk to you. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off.